Okay. Yeah. All right. You're good. All good.
All right, in 3, 2, 1. The president's legal team dumped Sidney Powell, which leaves us to wonder, to ask, will we ever get to see the Kraken? Crazy developments on that front yesterday. Also, I'm suddenly in favor of people harassing politicians in restaurants while they eat with their family. We'll give you the latest one of those and tell you why it's okay by me. Andrew Cuomo gets his Emmy today. We want to congratulate. Shout out to the governor of New York. He wins an Emmy, which, by the way, we found out he had to nominate himself for. The Patriots dropped to 4-6, which is not good. That's mediocre, middle of the pack. What a grim season for them. We give you another reason to hate Colin Kaepernick, as if you don't have enough. And an American hero emerges from a little pond in Florida. We'll give you the details on that too on today's Callahan podcast, brought to you by DCU, Digital Federal Credit Union. You love your car but hate your car payment? No problem. Refinance your car today with DCU, and they could help lower your monthly payment, lower your interest rate, or both. Applying is easy, and their loan experts will help you find the loan term and the payment that fits into your budget. Get out of that high rate loan and get the interest rate and the payment you deserve from DCU. Learn more and apply today at dcu.org/refinance. Insured by NCUA. Membership required. Cullinane is here. Tom Shattuck, our political guy, will be joining us. I wonder if Shattuck's ever had to save one of his chickens, from a wild beast. Probably wouldn't save Jerry, the toughest chicken he owns. If you don't not aware of what a weirdo Shattuck is, he owns a bunch of chickens. And is Callahan or Jerry, is he a rooster or a chicken? I don't
I
even
don't
know.
know. Shattuck's a strange cat, and he makes fun of me
Yeah.
a lot for some of the feminine moves that I make in life. And I saw his wife cleaning the gutters yesterday on Facebook, and that's not exactly a good look out of Tom Shattuck yesterday.
The wife was cleaning the gutters.
Something like that. Yeah.
Would you want Shattuck up on a ladder? Would you want him up on a roof?
That's true. Hey, let me just do a quick disclaimer, because when I build this live stream for our Facebook audience, I do it in advance. Turtleboy is having internet issues and will not be joining us because he's on the title of today's show.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, he might. He always has the open invitation, like all the guys do. They have something to say. They can join us, and he probably does. Does have plenty to say over from this weekend. But it's just. It is once again a crazy news day. Here's the way it worked for me. I watched, Sidney Powell for whatever now 2-3 weeks doing interviews. She was on with Howie Carr on Friday, I believe. She's been on at these press conferences with Giuliani. The press conference with Giuliani's hair dye was dripping down his face. She was standing right behind him. She's about 2 feet taller than Rudy, but she's a very well respected lawyer. She got General Flynn. She freed General Flynn, which was a great public service. And if you hear her talk, she's obviously smart. She's on the ball. She's aggressive. And in the middle, out of nowhere yesterday, we find out the legal team, Trump's legal team, dumped her, just separated themselves from her, said she's on her own now because she was increasingly unhinged. And I tweeted like an hour before they made this announcement, I tweeted that she's losing me because what she did most recently, I think she did it yesterday morning or Saturday, she accused the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, of being in on the conspiracy. And the Secretary of State, too, of Georgia, 2 Republicans, accused them of being in on the conspiracy, meaning they were making money. She said Dominion, the company that made the vote counting machines, was paying them off. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what the Kraken is. She kept promising. She said this week, the revelation she has this week, the announcements, the news she's going to present to the world this week was going to be biblical. And maybe it still will be. Maybe it'll still be wild. She's not going away. She's going to continue to work on this. And she's made all kinds of wild accusations. People keep saying, where's the evidence? And I don't expect her to lay out the evidence for, CNN, but there has to be something there if you're going to accuse the governor of Georgia of a Republican of selling out to the company that owns that makes the machines to topple the president, a guy in your own party. That is some pretty serious accusation. And I think at that point, the Trump camp, Rudy and company, and Jenna Ellis said This woman is nuts, and I guess we'll find out. We'll probably find out today because she's not going to just slink her off into the shadows. She's going to continue to make her case, which is pretty wacky. I mean, it's still America as far as I know, and she'll get her day, she'll get her say, and we'll get to decide if indeed she has any of this evidence, any of this proof that she's been claiming she had for a long time. If she doesn't, she's the biggest fool. She's the biggest clown in American, I won't say American legal history, but in recent history. If she has nothing, she just made this up. First of all, she'll get sued by someone like Brian Kemp. Secondly, she'll be a laughingstock, and she was just the opposite when she got General Flynn off. General Flynn was heading to jail. General Flynn had terrible legal counsel, pleaded guilty. Eventually, she stepped in and released the Kraken and got General Flynn off scot-free. And General Flynn is now tweeting on her behalf because Twitter, there's another subplot to this. Twitter suspended her for 12 hours. So she's on Twitter suspension. Tell me this, if you're anybody, you're an American citizen and have any interest in this story at all, even if you're a Democrat, you just want to get this over with and get your guy in office, and so Biden can get busy destroying the country. If that's your goal, don't you want to let her have her say? Don't you want her to talk? I mean, last time she talked, she said she made all kinds of wacky, crazy accusations. Why do you want to suppress that? Why? This is driving me crazy, and it's a daily theme of Democrats, liberals trying to stop speech, trying to censor speech. It's madness, and we hear from old school liberals, like Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi, and these guys are on Twitter and on their little Substacks saying this is nuts. People are trying to suppress speech. Wouldn't we all like to hear what Sidney Powell has to say today? The president just dumped her. Let's put her in front of the cameras again. Let's put her in front of the mics again, and let's hear what she has to say. If it's crazy, if she's making more crazy accusations, good. Then you should want to expose that. If you
well, the other thing too is some people are holding her accountable. I mean, look at Tucker Carlson last week, who had a spat with her. Yeah,
a lot of people were saying he was right, and here's why I tweeted that she's losing me. In fact, I tweeted the day before. I was saying she's got to bring some real serious proof or evidence at some point, because she's alleging the greatest crime in U.S. history. And people mocked me on Twitter, but consider what was accusing, saying they stole the presidency from Donald Trump with altered vote counting machines. And she brought in somehow Venezuela into this, and I didn't even understand that, but saying they took that money and paid off people like elected officials in various swing states. And they took the presidency away from Trump and delivered it to Joe Biden. That's the greatest crime in U.S. history. That's no joke. That's the greatest conspiracy in U.S. history. I mean, I think the greatest political crime was what Obama and Biden and company did to Trump 4 years ago, which is why Trump's never going to concede, with dignity. Like the media wants him so badly to just roll over and write a note to Joe Biden. That's never going to happen, nor should it. He knows what Biden tried to do to him. There's no way Donald Trump, of all people, is just going to turn around and say, let's let bygones be bygones. But that's beside the fact. The Powell thing, and she was right there, shoulder to shoulder with Giuliani and Jenna Ellis and Joe DeGenever and the rest of the legal team. And they just cut ties with her and said, she's a little too crazy, even for us. And so she's going to go her own way. She'll have her own legal team, and she'll make her own accusations. And it's going to be wild. She's right about one thing. It's going to be biblical. This week, we're going to see these dueling press conferences, I guess, or dueling interviews. Everyone will be tuning in to hear Tucker tonight. And when Tucker's over, you get to hear Hannity, who will have the case for the president, whatever that is, wherever the president's thinking, Hannity will have it for you. And hopefully, let's just hope Twitter allows Sidney Powell to express her First Amendment right, have something to say. God, driving me crazy, and I'm probably going to get banned or whatever, suspended at some point too for saying something. You can't say anything about Kyle Rittenhouse on Twitter or Facebook anymore. You can't even say, I hope he gets a fair trial. They'll make you delete it. They'll suspend you if you say anything in support of Kyle Rittenhouse. The big tech bullies come down. They apparently don't want anyone to look at this objectively and say, was he acting in self-defense? Is $2 million bail a little bit high? I love the yesterday AOC said Kyle Rittenhouse is an example of white privilege. A guy who shot 3 people, killed 2. One of them was a child molester, but killed 2 in self-defense. It's on video. We've seen the pictures. We've seen the video. It's clearly self-defense, but they're going to make an example of him. He finally makes bail, and she says that's white privilege. We've been watching criminals running wild around the country, these Antifa scum, for 6-7 months or whatever, 6 months now, and they don't ever have to post bail. In Portland, especially, Seattle, they just get their pictures taken and they fingerprints and they go on their merry way. Doesn't matter what the crime is. They could be burning down the federal courthouse. Doesn't matter. They don't even pay post bail. This guy has to post $2 million bail, which he got from various donated for various causes, including Ricky Schroeder. Don't sleep on Ricky Schroeder. He's a good right-wing activist, and he lent Kyle Rittenhouse some money to make bail. But he's going to appear in court. The money's good. What's Kyle Rittenhouse going to do? Pull a Roman Polanski and run to France or whatever? He's going to be in court. He's going to get his day in court. He's going to get acquitted. He's going to plead or make the case for self-defense. He's going to win, and it's going to drive the AOCs and these idiots nuts because white privilege. A poor white kid who just wanted to protect businesses because the police weren't doing their job. Anyway, don't you dare tweet about Kyle Rittenhouse, because Jack Dorsey will not stand for that, nor will Mark Zuckerberg, those 2 phonies who went before Congress and said, no, we don't do that. No. Here's see if we can get Powell with Howie Carr on Newsmax the other day, saying that she says Georgia is the first state I'm going to blow up. She's going to blow up Georgia. She said Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go because they're in on the Dominion scam. And they awarded a contract to Dominion for $100 million. She said, we should be looking into the financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and his Secretary of State. She says that Dominion, with the $100 million, kicked back money to the governor, a Republican, so he could help Biden steal the state and steal the presidency. I'm sorry. I was rooting for Rudy. I'm still rooting for Rudy because I think there was a lot of voter fraud. I don't think the governor of Georgia, just me, I don't know him. Know anything about him. I don't think he was taking money from the vote counting machine to flip the election. But hey, who knows? Maybe she'll release the Kraken this week and we'll find out just how corrupt this whole thing is. Rudy's promising some bombshells, but I think what we're going to learn, and the reason I think that they stole the election, is these ballot dumps at 4 a.m. because I was up late watching in Trump, and we've gone over the numbers. Trump had huge leads in Michigan and Pennsylvania, and boom, they just disappeared when they brought in those truckloads of ballots. Those are the allegations I'd be interested in, and the video, if they have video of these trucks pulling in, dumping off ballots. I'm not sure we're going to get too far on.
Well, she told Howie, right, that she can't even keep up with the amount of evidence the amount of things being sent to her. She's still combing through it all. Yeah,
it's like a fire hose. You can't keep up.
Well, here's Howie with her last week. Yeah,
or it's hearsay. Are you going to have the actual smoking guns to present to the courts?
We've got a number of smoking guns, and we may have to get witness protection for them.
So you're gonna be able to show votes changing. We've seen the computers, the freeze frames on the TV screens of the votes changing, or on the computer screens. Are you going to have the actual the actual solid evidence that those votes were being changed by these companies?
We have a lot of extremely solid evidence. It's beyond impressive and absolutely terrifying.
She just makes just like statements. Yes, we have it. She doesn't.
Absolutely
She
terrifying.
found
Well,
any of it. Yeah.
again, she's not going away. She's going to go off on her own. She's gone rogue, and she will have to present this evidence at some point to the public or to the courts, and she's going to have to file lawsuits, I guess. But she's not just going to go away. It's not like Trump dumped her, so she goes away. That's not going to happen. And let's be honest, Trump is probably as intrigued as anybody at what the Kraken is going to look like if she indeed does go public with this this mountain of evidence. And the witnesses are going to have to go into witness protection. Why? Because the governor of Georgia is going to take them out. I mean, I could see maybe the governor of New York doing that, but do you think the governor of Georgia is going to go after someone who testified against him? See, I'm okay with this because I mean, at some point, you need to, you need to show your cards, and I hope they press her to show her cards, because you can't promise the Kraken and then come out with some, wacky, one, outlier saying, yeah, here's what I saw, and give you some crazy story. You need to produce at some point. And I'm hoping this is the week. This is the week. I think there's so much fraud out there. We could spend the next month talking about it. I'll repeat my take on this. Yes, there was all kinds of fraud. Was it enough to swing the election? No. Your next president is Joe Biden, but I think we got to put a big fat asterisk on it and treat him the way they treated Trump for 4 years. Illegitimate, lots of questions about whatever. In this case, it wouldn't be Putin. In this case, it'd be, I don't know who, Brian Kemp, who would be the boogeyman. But
what's in it for her? Like, what is the reasoning behind putting yourself out there like this? There seems like so much risk.
She had an excellent reputation after she got General Flynn off. I mean, she did a lot of interviews and she sounded good and sure of herself and smart. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm sure she is a big Trump supporter and a big Biden hater, but you can't say, accuse the governor of taking money and then say, we're going to put our witnesses in witness, like Henry Hill. You're going to put them all in witness protection.
Just seems, I don't know. It just seems like a risk. It just seems like a crazy risk. You either got to have it and you're ready to go down in a blaze of glory or whatever, or
I give Howie credit though, because I watched this interview on Newsmax with Howie and Sidney Powell, which got a lot of traction, and Howie was a little skeptical, as he should have been, as everyone should have been. Tonight, like you said, Tucker Carlson would take a bow because he knew this was crazy. I mean, we treated it like, just like every other allegation from the Trump camp, like allegations of backdating and allegations of not letting the observers observe in Pennsylvania. There's all kinds of shenanigans. And then she'd come out of the blue and say, the vote counting machine was rigged. The governor's in on it. There's a million. And you go, what? Wait, hold on there, counselor. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to say. Why don't you put a call into her? She's got nothing else to do, Helen. Yeah. Let's see if we can get her on tomorrow. Are we still planning to talk tomorrow to Janice Dean? Because I'm looking forward to
Yes, Janice Dean is. I don't know when we gonna air that. Are we doing a show Wednesday morning?
Yes, we are doing a show. Why wouldn't we? Wednesday morning.
I don't know. You said something about it over the weekend, but all good.
What?
You said something about maybe we'll air Janice Dean on Wednesday. In my
we will. I mean, do you want whatever? We'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
it's just time to talk about when we're going to air the interview. I'm all for doing it live with our Facebook audience, but she's great. She's the if you don't know her, she's the weather woman on Fox News. But her in-laws were both killed by Andrew Cuomo, and today she was already. I've seen her on the news already because Cuomo is getting his Emmy today, and she revealed that to get an Emmy, you have to submit your work. So he took some of those press conferences early on in the pandemic. He took some of the press conferences where he was talking for like 2 hours about, how he spent more time with his daughters as a result of this and how he's going to look out for his mother, not your mother, but his mother. And he submitted them. And I don't even know who the Emmy committee is, but they gave him an Emmy. And today he receives his Emmy. It's the sickest freaking thing. when you think about it. Even if he didn't, even if he wasn't responsible for the death of tens of thousands of senior citizens, he's benefiting from this carnage. He's already wrote a book and gone on a book tour, but it's so sick and so insane that this egomaniac, this monster, Andrew Cuomo, who's the worst governor, the worst public official in America through this whole pandemic, just awful. He's a monster. And I understand Democrats don't care as long as you're, as long as you're in power and you look good on camera, they'll support you. But do any Democrats have a conscience here? Do any of them are they as repulsed by this a-hole as we are? Because Janice Dean said, that this is their first Thanksgiving without her in-laws. They were both killed when he put coronavirus patients into nursing homes. We know the story. 6,000 of them went in. By the way, while the big comfort ship was in the harbor, while Javits Center was right there, converted, waiting for patients, he said, no. We're going to put the patients back in the nursing homes, wiped out these nursing homes. And now this a-hole is getting an Emmy because he was so good on TV talking about it. And by the way, he's already got celebrities who are campaigning for him. I think he's got 2 years left in his term, Tom Shattuck, and he's got Ben Stiller out there and all these other celebrities campaigning. Do they not watch the news? I mean, I understand they probably don't watch, Fox News, but do they not occasionally see a story by a real newspaper like the New York Post that says what this guy did into New York nursing homes? And they think he should be reelected, and they think he deserves an Emmy, and they think he should be out there doing a book tour. The guy's doing a book tour while these people are still mourning their parents and grandparents. And they couldn't have funerals. They couldn't have wakes, traditional funerals and wakes for their loved ones because he put these rules in place, and he's the one that caused their death. It's just sick. I don't understand how anyone could support this.
Well, I mean, and not just that, but if you saw the press conference last week with him, and I know you played some, that was the most unhinged performance by an elected politician that I've ever seen, ever. There's nothing that Trump has ever done. There's nothing that Sonny Bono has ever done. I've never seen somebody lose it like that. And the way he was almost bipolar in his answer to the one reporter who simply asked, "Are the schools going to be open tomorrow? Do we send the kids to school? Do I get my kid and put him at the bus stop, or do I not?" And the way Cuomo attacked him and first was very condescending, and then attacked him and yelled at him was unhinged. And he actually, through 10 minutes of this back and forth with this reporter, Cuomo never answered the question, does the kid go to school? It was unhinged nutso.
I might have to impose an orange zone, and I might have to close the schools, which an orange zone does. So what's going on? Does the city still have the ability to close its schools? Are you now taking control and saying that you have the power to make this decision? And for the millions of parents who want to know, are the schools going to open tomorrow in New York City?
All right. First of all, let's try not to be obnoxious and offensive in your tone, because you're 100% wrong. These laws have all been in effect for months. I've always said, we set initial parameters, and then the school district picked a percent within those parameters. New York City picked 3%. We announced the orange zone law over a month ago.
He sounds like Mommy Dearest. He sounds like...
But he was wrong. The reporter was right. But this is so typical, Shattuck. I mean, I can explain it to you. This guy's ego is so out of control that he's used to getting his ass kissed all day. He's used to getting Emmys. And he's used to the media lying about whether he put these patients in nursing homes because they love him, because he's a Democrat, and they thought he was possibly the next president or the next vice president. So they do nothing but kiss his ass. That leads to this sense of entitlement, the sense of arrogance that he can do and say anything he wants. And when someone questions him, he can't handle it. He's not used to it. Unlike Donald Trump or somebody who gets questioned by a hostile press every day, they're never hostile. They're usually on their knees, licking his toes, and he's used to that. So one guy from the Wall Street Journal steps out of line and starts asking about whether schools are closed. And by the way, they were closed by the mayor, and the governor was wrong. And it's insane. The idea that the biggest school system in America is closed just because the teachers union doesn't want to go back to work. They want to keep the vacation going. That's the answer. They know, everyone knows there's no threat. Everyone knows that kids are better off in school. And when you have 1,000,001, I believe 1.1 million kids, lots of them have nowhere to go. Lots of them don't have good homes for homeschooling. I mean, virtual classes. They're, parents are both working, or it's a broken home, or they don't have the money. Whatever, they need school. Hell, half of them need the lunch. They're on the school lunch program, and they got nothing now because De Blasio, like many Democrats, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the teachers union, does what the teachers union tells them to do. They pretend they're in danger of COVID from the third grader. So they say, vacation, let's go back on vacation, forward my mail to Naples. That's what you're getting from these teachers unions, and these gutless Democrats are afraid to call them out.
No, but Jerry, the teachers unions will happily tell you, we didn't sign up for a death sentence, Jerry. We didn't sign up to die. As if being a teacher, by the way, is a mandatory occupation. I believe you could also not be a teacher if you can't handle the parameters.
And by the way, Tom, did all the workers at Stop and Shop sign up for a death sentence? Did all the workers at CVS sign up for death? Did all the cops and the firemen and the, you name it, the journalists and the Amazon drivers, did they all sign up for? Why have they gone to work through this whole thing? And teachers who were in no danger of getting the virus from a child can't go to work. Why are they special? Why are they the ones? Hell, our elected officials go to work. Some of them have gotten the virus, as we've seen. Hell,
we've been told for over 4 decades, Jerry, from these teachers unions, that they're responsible for cultivating our most precious natural resource, which are the kids. They're the future, Jerry. I don't know if you've heard that, but they're the future. And so the most precious natural resource right now is, being harmed because of these lockdowns. Remote learning is crap. It doesn't work. It's torturous for kids. They don't get it. It's asymmetrical for young minds to see this, to be watching TV school. And I mean, we know the teachers union it's a nice gig. When Biden is sworn in, the Department of Education is going to be run by a whack job, right. And
he's already said, he's on record saying the unions will be back in the game. They'll be back in power, and the biggest union is the teachers union, 3 million plus members. They are going to be in control. If you think these lockdowns are ending anytime soon, if it's up to them, forget about it. It is these people are just.
And actually, Jerry, not to steal the race mantle, from those who use it most opportunistically, but just think about how Jim Crow is it that if you have a kid, let's say a black student, who manages to, circumvent the incompetence of the public school system so much that he actually thrives and wants a chance at a charter school where he could absolutely bloom, they want to shut down. No charter schools. No, you have to suffer. You have to be incarcerated in a crap school like everybody else with no chance of excelling. And they pat themselves in the back for being civil rights,
right. No school choice either, of course. The great, right. I mean, to me, if you want to know whether a politician is racist, see whether he's favor or against school choice, because the ones who benefit from school choice are minority kids, get out of terrible schools in the inner city, go to parochial schools, go to private schools. If you're against that, then you don't give a damn about minority children. That's the case with Joe Biden, of course. I mean, he doesn't even know what he's for or against. He just said, yeah, unions are great. My father was he just make up something. My grandfather said the unions built this country. So
Joey,
the union, and I've certainly told this many times, but the LA Teachers Union, which is one of the bigger unions in the country, said that they weren't going to go back to work until they defunded charter schools and opened the border. Those were their 2 demands, and defund the police. They wanted to defund the police, open the border, and defund charter schools. And I'm going, what? That's your threat that you're not going to go back to work? The job, which is a pretty good job, let's be honest. You're not going to go back to work until we defund the police? They're just ideologues. They're radicals. You've seen that head of the teachers union in New York doing interviews. She makes no sense. They know that they're not it's not a death sentence. They know they're in no danger of getting the virus from a third grader. And you know what? If you think you are, if you're a 60-year-old teacher or you're a big fat teacher, then don't go to work. You know, we'll give you a special a special waiver. You could stay home. The 28-year-old first grade teacher should be in school teaching, and she knows it. I mean, they're not. They know it, but they're just doing what they're told by their
and just like with Cuomo, Jerry, just like with Cuomo, you know, one reporter, a CBS reporter last week, dared ask Biden during a photo spray about the teachers union situation.
And just understand, in my Oval Office,
I couldn't really hear it. Anyway, so Biden yelled at him for asking. Oh, I figured it would be you.
Guy, Bo Erickson, the guy at CBS.
Was that the one where he says, "Mi casa is your casa"?
Yes.
He's the only. He says, "Why are you the one that yells questions at me?" He's not the one who yells. He's the one that asks questions of you. He's the only one who asks questions of you. Everyone else there is just there to, you know, give you a foot massage. But the guy, it's a pretty good question. You know, should schools be open, Mr. President-elect? And I think he answered in some other language. I didn't really understand it, but
right. And you know, for Biden to equivocate on that and not be consistent on that, and obviously he'll do what other unions tell him. He owes the unions. He owes the unions, and he owes the squad, among other things. It's going to be interesting to see him pay these debts down. But for the
squad, I mean, he's ignoring the squad, and I guess I give him credit for that because. You know, they'll make a lot of noise, but, you know, there's not going to be any Liz Warren in his cabinet. There's not going to be any Bernie Sanders in his cabinet. There's not going to be any great cry to defund the police or the Green New Deal.
How do you know, Jerry? That's not true. There's no way he can ignore them. He can't.
I mean, do you really think, I mean, you know what the Green New Deal is, what it costs. You really think Biden will ever say, yes, we're going to spend $93 trillion and we're going to refit every building in America? I think get rid of cars. We're going to get rid of cars.
I think it'll be baby steps. The pride of BU mentioned it just 3 days ago.
We have worked with the Biden administration to secure commitment on a $2 trillion climate plan.
That's just steps to what they want.
$2 trillion. That ain't $93 trillion. By the way, is there anything dumber than a local politician? I see this every day, like mayors working on climate change. Mayors who are in charge of this little plot of land and this, you know, small part, not even a whole state, just a city, and they're going to tackle the climate of the world. It's just ridiculous. And by the way, Trump's going to have a good final 2 months. Did you see him come out or see that statement about the Paris Climate Accords? It's got nothing to do with the climate. It has to do with taxing American taxpayers and paying for these globalists to fly around in private jets and tell everyone how they should get by with less. But I don't want. We'll get to AOC another day. I mentioned her earlier because she thinks Kyle Rittenhouse is a great example of white privilege. They let him out on $2 million bail because he shot 3 people, killed 2 scumbags in self-defense. Everyone knows it was self-defense. A jury will eventually acquit him, but he finally gets out on bail. And she said that's white privilege. White privilege. So all the rioters and looters got out on no bail, and that's, I don't know what, that's not good. And then he gets $2 million bail, and she thinks it's white privilege. This poor white kid from Illinois. But anyway, before we have the dumbest, well, I shouldn't say the dumbest because this happens every day, but we got the latest in extreme lockdown measures. And I like to do these things because they seem absurd at the time. And in a few days, they're part of the mainstream agenda for mainstream Democrat governors and mayors. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you if you have any better theories or any good theories about Sidney Powell, because I mentioned that she was. I tweeted that she was losing me a couple of hours before they dumped her. They split with her. The Trump legal team, Rudy and Jenna Ellis, said she's not with us anymore. And I said she's losing me because she said, and we played the sound with Howie Carr on Newsmax, that Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, and the Secretary of State of Georgia were in on it and were taking money from Dominion to make this deal to use rigged voting machines and steal that state from the president and deliver it to Joe Biden. That was the moment where, I'm a good right-wing zealot and I'm up for this fight and I'm looking forward to see what Rudy has to say. But that was, even for me, a little bit much, Tom Shattuck. Would you agree?
Yeah, oh, totally. She's grift-addled. She's like in the same way Nancy Pelosi is unable to speak in anything but politicalese and act like a political creature, even if it's with new stimulus to help people whose lives are crashing down right now. She can't undo that part of her. It's the same thing. With the what's her name again? The lawyer,
Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell. I'm sorry, I forget it. It's the same thing with Sidney Powell. Yeah, I watched all of that. I watched her blame Kemp. She's unhinged, and she's just stuck in this rut. She's addled, and it gives Trump an excellent. She's nuts. There's nothing to it. Nothing that they've done. Nothing that
wasn't nuts. 2 weeks ago, everyone thought she was a brilliant lawyer. She did great work for General Flynn.
I know she did. I know what she did.
He dumped his old lawyers, hired her, and the next thing you know, he's walking free, and he can't ever get his house back because he had to sell his house to pay for those previous lawyers. But anyway, she did great work for him. He's now serving as her tweeter because Twitter suspended her. And General Flynn, that's
what she did was incredible with Flynn. It was absolutely incredible, and it was against all odds. And she not only she exonerated Flynn, but she also exposed the FBI deeper than we ever thought. Between her and Tom Fitton, it's like, Jesus,
right. We've
got a problem here. But no, I think she is nuts. I think sometimes nuts works in a great way. Sometimes it's fantastic and it's perfectly appropriate. But her being the public face of this thing is crazy. There's nothing to this. Venezuela does not have anything to do with this election whatsoever. But this gives Trump an opportunity. I think this is his perfect opportunity down, because he'll do exactly what he did with the birth certificate. He'll come to this and he'll be the mediator and he'll save the company from this conflict, which is now going to be Sidney Powell versus kind of Giuliani, who's trying to do the right thing. And Trump will march right over to the American people, hopefully in 2 days. I'd like it before Thanksgiving.
Today, I'm very proud of myself because I've accomplished something that nobody else has been able to accomplish. I was just informed while on the helicopter that our president has finally released a birth certificate.
Trump acted like he was a bystander, and he took credit for finally uniting the country. We put that behind us. I was happy to do it.
What does that have to do with this?
Because that's what he can do with this. He can say, I've stopped the conflict. I've stopped the chaos. We know that there was election tampering. There will continue to be legislation, but I'm going to, acknowledge the scoreboard at least, and begin sharing information with Joe Biden to make sure that his presidency benefits from all the good work my presidency does. Trump could be a peacemaker with this. Gives him the opportunity.
One thing I like about what Giuliani and Sidney Powell has done is, and it's not hard to do, but they've exposed the media for the frauds that they are. Mm-hmm. When they say, where's the evidence? The answer to that question that they keep asking of Giuliani and Jenna Ellis and whoever and Sidney Powell, the answer to that question is, you're the media. You're supposed to be looking for evidence. You're supposed to be asking these questions of the authorities. When you hear them say, we have 300 affidavits, eyewitnesses talking about, backdating ballots or dumping ballots, you're supposed to say, gee, those are, can I take a look at that? Can I call that person? Can I do that story? But they don't, because they're not journalists. They're not members of the media. They're members of the Biden, transition team, essentially.
Right. You're right, Jerry. But they don't want to launder this information, for Team Trump. So they're not going to do that.
Every question Giuliani should answer the same way. Aren't you a member of the media? Aren't you a reporter? Aren't you curious? When we say we have all these poll workers saying, yes, they saw a truck pull up and dump off boxes of ballots, all for Biden. Wouldn't you like to know, who that guy was, who the witness is, what they had to say, where they were? I mean, isn't that a good story? But no, all they're there for is to say, you got to concede. This is outrageous. You're undermining democracy. I know you've seen these montages where they all say the same thing because they're all on the email chain. I hate to sound like Sidney Powell, like a conspiracy theorist, but they're all getting emails from the Biden team, and they're all repeating the same mantra of, he's undermining democracy. This is putting our country in danger because Biden's not getting the the proper briefing. I mean, it just amazes me that anybody, and can we just put this to rest, that there's no way Trump is ever going to just, because he'll concede obviously at some point and leave the White House, but he's never going to shake Biden's hand and write a little note and say, this is great, it's great about America. He knows what Biden did to him 4 years ago. He knows what Obama did, what Hillary started. He knows how underhanded they were, how duplicitous they were. There was nothing classy or dignified about the Obama to Trump. I mean, yeah, he wrote a note to Trump and he shook his hand. At the same time, he put the FBI on surveilling his campaign. So he knows he's dealing with real, bad people, and he's not going to turn around and say, gee, let's just pretend like I'll be like George W. Bush, and I'll, give a hug to Jill Biden and a handshake to Joe Biden, and I'll wish him well. That is never.
No, you're right about that, Jerry. You're right about that. And there's no doubt that had this been reversed and there a razor-thin Trump victory, that you would have had Democrats in the street saying to not go to court would be un-American. And for anybody to even suggest it, you'd be banned on Twitter immediately. And Jack Dorsey would be saying, no. I mean, you would absolutely have to be counting and recounting. And the Russians would be back, obviously, and the North Koreans would be back into it. There's no doubt about that. So in that situation, I understand, that feeling. I mean, if this one is over. I mean, though. So I mean, but you're right though when they say no, our democracy, the fabric of our democracy is being threatened now. The peaceful transition of power is being threatened. Remember, they say now, Jerry. Remember, because we didn't have a peaceful transition for when Gore and Bush were in court. That we couldn't. That 9/11 happened. So we're threatening another 9/11 here. Well, hey, a-hole, it wasn't us who was demanding recounts in Florida. It was you. It was you who said who's blaming us for causing another 9/11, who, according to you, caused the last one
And you know what? I would say in defense of Sidney Powell, and again, I think this accusation against Brian Kemp is ridiculous, and she just lost, and I understand why she's on her own now. But the thought that Venezuela was involved and Kemp was taking money is a little far-fetched. Is it as far-fetched as Trump's a Putin double agent, that he's working for the Russians? Which is more far-fetched, just, in your opinion?
No. I think
the Russian conspiracy hoax.
The Russian conspiracy
the silliest theory ever, that Trump was working with Putin, and MSNBC spent 3 years advancing that. Hillary Clinton made it up. Barack Obama and Joe Biden advanced it. It was ridiculous from the beginning that Trump somehow, first of all, they would say he's a dummy and a boob, and secondly, he's smart enough to conspire with the Russians to steal an election. But they gave that oxygen for 3 years. So maybe Sidney Powell said, this is a crazy theory, but it's not nearly as crazy as that. So why not?
And it's tiny too. The other one was an orchestrated campaign amongst media and elected politicians and the institutions in government. That was the biggest conspiracy ever in our government. Certainly, it was indeed a soft coup. There's no way you can say it wasn't. And it was based on nothing, and they knew it. They knew it. When Trump said in that summer of 2016, Russia, if you're listening, for any journalist to say, oh my God, Trump is actually asking the Russians, and they cite this, and Robert Mueller cites this in his report. Do you think if Trump wants information from the Russians, he's going to do it at a freaking podium in front of the world and say, hey, by the way, if you're listening, can we have the emails?
But you're so right, Derek. You're so right. He was obviously kidding. I saw it. You saw it. I've seen 100 times. He was obviously joking around. He was being Trump. That's what he does. And she would say, oh, he's asking the Russians for help. Obviously, Hillary is a despicable human being, a liar. She an immoral human being. And yet they allowed her to do this, to get her revenge, because she lost to Trump, to get her revenge by tarnishing his presidency and what she did.
Right.
With the help of Obama and Biden and the FBI and Clapper and Brennan and Comey, with their help, they managed to undermine Trump
and they used
to an extent. And it's amazing he got as much done as he did when you consider what they did. They impeached him.
Yes. They used the Kavanaugh gaslighting against him. Destroyed his life, had everybody up there slandering him, suggesting that the administration was invalid from the beginning, and then blamed him for being incredulous for being angry about it. They blamed him. Why is he so unhinged right now? This doesn't make any sense. That's unpresidential. Unpresidential. You just had Woodward, Bernstein, and Douglas Brinkley in a row saying that this guy was the most, unfit president in the history of the world. You're saying that this man is Hitler. Sanjay Gupta on CNN, right after the inauguration said this has only been paralleled before it's Fareed Zakaria. It has only been paralleled before during the Third Reich and the Germans' incursion into the Sudetenland. Holy Jesus, you guys are really saying this stuff? And you're blaming him?
Christiane Amanpour said it was like Kristallnacht, which is 83 or whatever years ago, like this month, where they burned 1,000, temple, Jewish synagogues and homes and destroyed businesses. And it was the start, obviously, of essentially the start of the Holocaust. And she said, it's kind of like this administration. Trump, Pence, they're kind of like Hitler. And then you're watching and said, this person is out of her mind. And she had to apologize. She didn't really mean to apologize. She was forced to. But they don't see anything wrong. And this explains everything, by the way. If you want to know why they are so crazed and why they hate Trump so much and why they're willing to look the other way and cheat, and why they needed this mail-in ballots, and why they needed to, why the media is 100% in the tank, is because Trump's Hitler. And if Trump is Hitler, all bets are off. You're allowed to do things illegally. You're allowed to do things immorally. If he's Hitler, you're allowed to make up a crazy Russian connection hoax and go with it because he's Hitler. Let's be honest. If someone is Hitler, there's no limit to what you'll do to bring him down.
Damn right. And you're allowed to punch his supporters because they're culpable. They're little brown shirts in training. You're right about that. And Colbert said last week, and he's had a nervous breakdown. He's not well. He said last week, he said, damn it, don't you understand? I've always said he's a fascist. He's a fascist. And now we're seeing it. And the train's coming. And he's going to put you on the train, the train stuff. And so I'm saying, like, if they actually think now that he's been mobilized, that this is indeed the Reichstag's been bombed, and now Trump is really taking power, why would these people still be punching in every day like they do every day, going to the gym at 10 a.m. and punching into work at, doing their hour of their comedy show? If you've got the Fuhrer in the White House right now, would you alter your schedule to maybe get the hell out of town or do something else other than what you normally do? Yeah. Hitler is ascended, so I'm going to go on my show and try to scare everybody. No, if Hitler's really ascended, you get the hell out of Dodge, or you start, getting together with some other people in, push.
I tweeted this the other day. He's the worst fascist, the worst dictator ever, because there's literally Antifa and BLM people right outside the White House, setting fires and throwing things and threatening his supporters and, wishing him death. And he doesn't, send the stormtroopers out there to kill them. Now, if you're Hitler, wouldn't you just go out there and say, eliminate those people?
Hitler would never have used tear gas to clear the federal property.
No. He wouldn't have held up the Bible upside down.
Exactly. Have third-rate journalists say, I have tear gas in my eyes, pouring water in their eyes, making sure the cameraman with his unsteady camera can show him pouring water in his eyes. God, the performance art has been ridiculous.
And would he have allowed this? I mean, if you're Hitler, you would. If you're Trump and you're Hitler, you're a dictator, a fascist, and an authoritarian. Wouldn't Jim Acosta be in the gulag right now? Wouldn't
I would say James Comey would be where Jimmy Hoffa is, among other things. Right?
Brennan would not be walking free. Hillary certainly wouldn't be walking free. He's a terrible dictator. Just like he's a terrible anti-Semite. He goes called an anti-Semite and a terrible racist. He keeps freeing, these black women, these old black ladies from prison. What a terrible racist he is. But I am changing my tune on harassing politicians in restaurants. I'm coming around on that strategy, Shattuck. I used to think it was terrible, and they're with their family. Let them eat in peace.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's one of these petty tyrants that will not let you and your family eat in peace, hell, no reason to let them eat in peace. And I'm referring, of course, to Phil Murphy, the guy, the New Jersey governor who bought the governorship in New Jersey, formerly Charlie Baker's high school classmate, or is it college classmate? They go to high school. They went to high school together, correct? Yes. And he's just like Baker. Can't come up with. There's not enough power to suit him. Not enough rules and regulations to make him happy. And he's insisting, of course, that everyone eat Thanksgiving dinner alone in their room, in a dark room, That's what they recommend. Don't see your friends or neighbors. Don't go outside, and don't even breathe the air. Sit in their side and with your mask on between bites. Don't even look out the window. It's dangerous. We have to stop the spread. We have to flatten the curve, Tom Shattuck. So this a-hole, Phil Murphy, was out to dinner. I think he was at, I don't know what he was at, Applebee's or something with his family. And they were all bunched in together. Nobody was wearing masks. They were having a grand old time. And what it sounds like to me? It sounds like, what was Carmela Soprano? Sounds like maybe Carmela and a couple of her friends catch Governor Murphy sitting there dining with his family. But let's hear from these fine, frustrated New Jerseyans.
Oh my God, it is!
Hey, how you doing?
Oh my God, Murphy,
How you doing?
Such a dick.
You're having fun with your family. In the meantime, you're having all kind of other bullshit going on at your house.
No, I'm not drunk. As a matter of fact.
Put your mask on.
You can go fuck yourself. How's that?
Well,
I don't need a
have
fucking
a mask on. You know why I don't need a mask? Because there ain't nothing fucking wrong with me.
I like your Trump
You're
focus.
fucking right.
That's what Trump likes. He likes my dad.
Yeah, no, he doesn't like your
Oh, he
fun.
does. He
Get
does.
the fuck out of here. Thank you.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Get out of here. You know what? You
Come on. Oh my.
It's hysterical on so many levels. See him, he puts his mask on when he realizes they got a camera,
Right.
and he's literally in between bites, and he puts the mask on. He's so full of it. They're all so full of it. Anyway, they think it's going to be one of these, friendly little, disagreements with a constituent. And she says, "Yeah, you can go F yourself." That is such vintage New Jersey. That's the way people like this. If you see Cuomo out to dinner, or Murphy or Whitmer or Baker, I think that's perfectly appropriate.
I feel like that's not the New Jersey I know, the typical New Jersey family. I would think the wife would get up and sock one of those people,
You know what? Pre cell phone camera, they might have, but these aren't really New
And it
Zealand.
would have been, in fairness, you might support what they did, but it would have been deserved if they got punched.
This is a multi-millionaire Wall Street broker. This isn't a typical This is a guy from Needham.
I know.
Typical New Jersey family. You know who Trump likes? He likes my dad. No, he doesn't like your dad. Nobody likes your dad.
It is. I would suggest, if people haven't listened to it, go, if you haven't watch or listen to the Chef Mike episode of the Jerry Callahan show. I thought it was incredible just to hear the ass kicking these guys are getting. These small business owners. He went down from 9 employees to 4 employees. Has to pay a mortgage. Still has to pay bills. Barely eking out a living. That's entire livelihood. It was, and for governors to go and shut them down again and say, screw you. Meanwhile, Walmart and all these other places are open. Man, it is vicious. It is freaking.
If you think you're in a restaurant or a gym, and across the street's a Walmart or a Home Depot, and I talk about the Home Depot near me all the time. Packed. The parking lot's packed. The store's packed. I mean, they have little lines where you have to wait 6 feet apart when you wait in line to check out. But other than that, there's no rules. I mean, you got to wear your mask. But so what? They get to do business, and you've seen the numbers. Home Depot, Walmart, Amazon, Target the business has been booming. It is the greatest transfer of wealth from small business to big business, from local merchants to corporate America in our history. These people are being put out of business, and you referred to Chef Mike. It was our special weekend Callahan podcast. This poor bastard started a restaurant. It was like the summer of 2019, and then he gets hit with this. He's going to lose $300,000 if they put him out of business. And Charlie Baker's put at least 5,000 restaurants out of business in Massachusetts, and they just keep making it tougher and tougher. I saw a guy, a New York restaurateur, interview this morning, and when they put in the last call or the curfew, he says we made more from, I think it was 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. He says we made more in those hours than the rest of the day combined. That we need those hours. And we just come up with this arbitrary thing like, let's have a curfew. And if you're a restaurant owner, you go, wait a second, if you have a curfew, you're going to force everybody into the restaurant at the same time instead of spreading it out. That sounds deadly to me, but they don't care. There's obviously they're all a bunch of friggin' hypocrites. Obviously, people like Murphy and Newsom and Whitmer do what they want to do. Every single one of them has been caught in defying their own orders, and they will continue to be. And this is going to get crazy because I think some of them, like Cuomo, are going to take action or try to take action on Thanksgiving. They're going to bust some people for having too many people at their house. I mean, I'm just going to make a prediction on New York. They will bust some people for having too many people over for dinner. And I'm going to guess that the people they bust are going to be of the Jewish persuasion. They're going to be Jewish folks in Brooklyn who Cuomo and de Blasio hate because there are a couple of anti-Semites. They're going to go after them and make an example of them. They already have. But it's going to get crazier before it gets better. I know vaccines right around the corner. But here's
Jerry, remember, when he goes after the Jews, Cuomo isn't just going after the end user. He's going to go after the larger community and businesses because they're sensitive to money.
Right. That's true. It's all they care about. But here's every day, if you're online, you're on social media, you see every day another crazy measure, restriction, rule. And this one's out of England. It was on the BBC over the weekend, where an elected official, I'm going to get his title, came up with a plan. His name is Mark Adams. And he's got an idea, and he thinks it's going to got legs. He wants to postpone Christmas. He says, why don't we just postpone it for 6 months? We'll all celebrate it in June, when it's warm. He says, I read recently an idea about bringing Christmas to June or July and having Christmas Day then. And I think that sounds like an eminently sensible thing to do. We certainly can't have a Christmas like we're used to having. And he wants to postpone Christmas for 6 months and thinks it's an eminently sensible thing to do. Now, you laugh at that. Do you have any doubt that there'll be some American politician, governor, mayor say, yeah, it's a good idea. We can't have Christmas. Of course, you'll catch the guy at his house with 100 people with family members having Christmas. But these people are out of control, and they're trying to one-up each other. So
I mean, they basically already did, right? Every school system is going remote learning till halfway through January because you'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks after Christmas. So they're basically doing it here. Maybe they're not going to make headlines for it, but it's already happening.
Yes, they're not. They're only these health officials who now run the country only have a rubber stamp that denies access. That's the only tool they have. So they'll use it.
We've got to get the vaccine. It's got to be deployed, and we can't abandon fundamental public health measures. You can approach a degree of normality while still doing some fundamental public health things that synergize with the vaccine to get us back to normal.
So not until the second or third quarter of 2021, though. Christmas is probably not going to be possible.
Yeah,
Oh, shut up. God, I'm sick of Fauci. I mean, honest to God, who loves the camera more, Fauci or Cuomo? Christmas is not going to be possible. Yeah.
Well, you can have a degree of normality, but the synergy of Christmas is no bueno. So, no, and certainly not New Year's Eve. Jesus, not New Year's Eve. Not New Year's Eve.
No, and you know what? Every day we do this every day because every day there's a new insane rule or regulation. And I'm just predicting right now. I predicted that they would regulate the size of turkeys. Like if you bought a 23 pounder, they would somehow the government would track that, follow you to your house, and bust you because that means you're having too many people at your house. And there was like some parody. I don't know if it was Babylon Bee or someone said that they're now tracking the people who buy big turkeys in California, which do you think that's not possible? Do you think that's too extreme?
No, of course it's possible.
I tweeted this the other day. In Australia, in Greece, you have to text the local government when you leave your house and text them when you get back home because they monitor how long people leave. And in Australia, there was this exchange where a woman texted the local government official and asked if she could walk her dog, and they said no. There was no dog walking allowed. You can't.
You know what she was doing? She was ratting out her husband. Remember, her husband wanted to walk the dog, and she said, "By the way, my husband's not following the rules. Can you let us know for sure if this is allowed?" And the government said, "No, it's not allowed." And she said, "Ha ha, see." So she's ratting out her husband. This thing's
What's the
bringing out.
dog? Is the dog supposed to like use the toilet? Well, I don't even understand. You can't walk your dog. When does it go to the bathroom?
He can use the degree of normality that a dog can use, Jerry. And if there's not synergy there, then that's too bad. But you've heard. Why wouldn't they? You've already seen the pictures. We've talked about it of the people with the telephoto lenses. Or looking at spying on people gathering in big cities.
No, those were spying on Jewish people.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the word. Get it straight. Cuomo and de Blasio said, let's get the Jewish folks. That's where they were, in Brooklyn.
Right. And of course, there's
coming from
hotlines,
neighborhood
Jerry.
to
So if you see, with your own, if you have thermal imaging technology and you see a number of crock pots heading into a certain house, then that's something that's actionable as well. It's up to you. We've all been deputized. It's up to you to turn them in.
And we know that get-togethers, even small ones, can spread the virus. In New Jersey alone, 5 coronavirus outbreaks were linked to Halloween parties. The new CDC guidelines for small gatherings include requiring everyone to wear a mask, even outdoors, avoiding direct contact, including handshakes and hugs, keeping music levels down to avoid people singing or trying to shout over the noise, avoiding potluck-style gatherings, and having one person serve all the food so multiple people are not handling the serving utensils. Is there anything else you can think of to add to the list?
Stay apart if you can. Wear that mask and enjoy Thanksgiving, even though it's a COVID Thanksgiving.
I love it, Jake. Is there anything else?
I mentioned Phil Murphy. And Massachusetts had the rules too. Baker wants you to bring your own food to other people's houses. So you bring your own food and utensils, and you eat separately from the people you're visiting, which makes about as much sense as like not going to their house. Just stay home and eat, right? And Baker will have plenty of people at his house, and Karen Polito will have a big party. The lieutenant governor, they will not follow their own rules, because none of these people follow their own rules. That's when we talked about Gavin Newsom the other day. Here's how you know that they don't think that these rules are really measures for public health measures, because they don't follow them. I mean, Phil Murphy, if he really thought sitting at a crowded restaurant would get you sick and you might die, he wouldn't do it. Gavin Newsom wouldn't have gone to that party at the French Laundry if he really thought having a dinner with 13 people was going to kill you. He wouldn't have done it. So we know they're liars and hypocrites. We know they're not doing what they want us to do, and they know what they want us to do is not necessary. By the way, did Jake Tapper tabulate the number of outbreaks as a result of the Biden celebration parties or the Black Lives Matter?
That was political speech, Jerry. There's political speech is not, it's something different. The degree of normality is allowed during political speech. And for you to try to suppress that, by the way, and considering it's a public health issue, Black Lives Matter is a public health issue, just shows you're just part of the oppressive patriarchy. So, no.
And by the way, Gavin Newsom, he just stopped in. He was sitting outside. There were just a couple friends. Gavin, we have it on camera. You lying piece of crap. We saw everything. We know you're full of it. We know you don't really think these things are necessary. All right, a couple quick things. I don't know how we get off on that tangent. A couple quick things after I talk about Shea Concrete. Let me tell you what Shea can do for you, Tom Shattuck. You should do this, because I know you live in the sticks with all your chickens. You should get yourself a building, a concrete building from Shea Concrete. All right, couple things. We have a new American hero. We have I want to talk about two things before we go here. The new American hero and the anti-hero that people at ESPN worship anyway. We're going to give you the latest on why Colin Kaepernick is such a piece of shit. But anyway, let's talk about 74-year-old, what's his name? Wilkins is I'm going to get you his name. He went global over the weekend. It was actually in late October that he was did his heroic thing, but his name is Richard Wilbanks, 74 years old. I believe he's in Fort Myers. He's in Lee County, Florida. And if you weren't on social media, you might have missed it, but he saved his little puppy dog. He has a little puppy, brand new puppy named Gunner, a 3-month-old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, whatever that is, but a cute little dog. the dog got yanked into the swamp by a little alligator, not a big gator, but a gator. And Richard Wilbanks went into action. Typical, hard scrabble, Florida senior citizen just jumped in the pond.
I love my dog, and I can't see myself pulling this one off. But let me show it just in case people didn't see it.
Man leaps into the water to grab a hold of his King Charles Spaniel and wrest it from the jaws of the alligator. It takes several seconds until he's able to put the gator down, shake the puppy from its grip. The puppy did suffer a puncture to its belly, but is doing just fine after a trip to the vet.
That dog
is that a stogie in his mouth?
I think so. Yeah,
he goes underwater completely and doesn't lose the stogie. I assume it wasn't lit, but he goes underwater completely. He's an old guy in the swamp, and he comes out with the gator in his hands and has to pry the little puppy out of the jaws of the gator. And this thing just went global. And as everybody was saying, can we, instead of, Joe Biden, could we maybe have Richard Wilbanks?
Yeah.
Could the electors switch their vote and vote for this guy? Because what a great American. He's an avid hunter, and he was just hanging by. And you know what? He didn't videotape this. It was some government program where they had cameras on the swamps to monitor the wildlife with nonsense. And somebody was looking at it and said, "Holy crap, look what this guy did. He went in and fought a gator."
He didn't videotape it, Jerry. He's probably from a generation where he probably wasn't going to tell anybody either. Maybe buying scratch tickets later. Yeah, I had to grab the dog from a
guy. Said the dog went to the vet, which surprised me. I figured he'd say, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And he probably went
Jerry,
in,
I want to give a shout out to Alice Shattuck, then, my wife, Jerry, who intervened 3 days ago. A certain chicken named Little Jerry Callahan was out in the yard when a hawk attacked it. She went out there and they were rolling around on the ground. Did you realize that
with the hawk?
The hawk attacked my chicken. Little Jerry Callahan, and they're rolling around on the ground. They were fighting on the ground, which I didn't know was possible, like MMA. And my wife went out there and scared the hawk off, and it flew away. And Little Jerry Callahan is fine, a little banged up. But she saved his life, like that guy. Also, Stogie,
That would be a great video. That would be a great
I know.
Video. Did you set up a camera out there and get that? Because this guy, Richard Wilbanks, is a national hero. Just think of your wife. She would have gone global. She would have been famous. She would have dumped your ass. And
that chicken, Jerry. Who knew a chicken can fight a hawk? Seriously. I'm thrilled about it.
Is it a rooster or a chicken? I was wondering.
He's a chicken.
Chickens are girls, though, aren't they?
I don't know, Jerry. I don't know. He lays eggs, and he's a good-looking bird.
Eggs.
Yes, and he fought. He can be whatever he wants, Jerry. By the way, what are you, the Harry Potter author? Suddenly, J.K. Rowling.
We don't have time for this. I was trying not to get sidetracked, but did you guys see the video? And I'll probably, this is something. Let me just preface it by saying that I could never ever do at my previous place of employment. Did you see that church service? I tweeted this out last night. Did you see it, Kelly? Because it's amazing where they bring a little kid. I'm not sure if it's a girl or a boy, and they bring this kid up, the kid on the altar, and the kid's like 4, and they say, "Are you a girl or a boy?" And they let the kid decide. It's gone viral. I tweeted out last night, Dave, and it's the creepiest thing. There's a bunch of grown-ups in the pews, and they're watching these kids, and they're letting the kids decide at whatever age. What would you say? Can you see that now, Dave? They're probably
you want me to play it? Let me play it for you.
Yeah, watch.
Good morning. Today we choose to recognize, honor, love, and celebrate anyone here who would claim their identity publicly as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, intersex, pansexual, asexual, or any category that I've left out. This is Phoenix. You're a little shy. Do you want to tell everyone if you're a boy or a girl?
I just want to tell them that I'm a girl.
Okay, you can tell them that. Okay. Phoenix would like you to know that she's a girl and she prefers she and her pronouns.
All right. Yeah, Shattuck, you got a bunch of kids. So do
Yeah.
you, Colin. How old is Phoenix? If you had to guess, how old is Phoenix?
4.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4 or 5.
4. I mean, you know why I'm sitting here and not no longer on the radio, don't you? Because I said it was crazy for a 4-year-old to transition. Of course, the Boston Globe was, honoring this family for abusing this poor child, but the same thing, 4-year-old, and they were encouraging the 4-year-old to, I don't know, transition or pick her own gender. And they show in the video, Phoenix is with her, I don't know what you call it, sister or brother, but Lotus is the other kid. Lotus and Phoenix, and they're both ambiguous. They both have dressed. I don't know how they're dressed. They bring this 4-year-old, they put a mic in her hand on the altar and say, tell everyone that you're a girl, which I assume that means that Phoenix was born a boy. Is that what we assume? And they dress her up like a girl, and she decides to be a girl at 4 years old. And these hideous women are up on the altar with these big, disgusting women are up on the altar telling her, confusing her. What are your pronouns? Does a 4-year-old even know what a pronoun is? I don't think I knew what a pronoun was till I was like, in college.
No.
Why would a kid even know what a pronoun is?
No, and that's why Trump. It's insanity. But I mean, if it was just insanity, that would be fine. The fact that it's really child abuse, and it's really the parents who are just on this crazy quest for spiritual nobility through these crazy antics using the kids as props. I mean, it's sick and it's torture. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, I mean, I remember when you guys originally got in trouble with that, I also mentioned it, and it was considered an unsafe thing to talk about, to write about at the time. And it's disgusting. That's crazy. By the way, is Jesus Christ not a running theme in any of these churches? Because I never.
That's part of the patriarchy. That's what that is. Did you hear the list the various genders or whatever, the list of various? And I'm thinking that's one thing for all these crazy adults. There's a bunch of crazy adults in the pews, but in front of them is a whole bunch of children, 4 or 5-year-old children. And you're listing whether you want to be a pansexual or a transsexual, and they're going, and they just want to play with their toys or go out in the playground. I mean, they want to be kids, and they're being used as props by these whack jobs who are forcing this kind of this intersectionality on these poor children. It is child abuse, as somebody said on Twitter this morning. Said they should send in the authorities, take these kids away and arrest these parents. I mean, it's child abuse. You're abusing, emotionally, mentally abusing these poor children. But
the stats show that there's incredible, amounts of damage are done on huge levels as well. But look at Abigail Schreier and what she's been writing and saying about this. What this does, especially to young girls, as teenagers. A lot of the stuff is just a phase. A lot of the stuff is, is this kind of herd mentality that they get in with their friends. And they get out of it eventually too, but not without doing irreparable damage, including surgeries to remove breasts and things. It's
amazing.
disgusting.
She says, in places, if you don't know who she is, she wrote the book about this craze of I guess, changing your gender. And I saw her say in some states, if you're 15 years old, you can go into these clinics. In Oregon, they have these clinics to go like gender clinics, and you can get treatments, hormone treatments, with no permission from your parents, no from a doctor, nothing. You can just go and say, I think I'm a boy in a girl's body. Okay, here you go. Sit down. We'll give you an injection. It's madness, and it's this new trend, and they're doing it in groups. The girls are coming out as boys with their friends. Like 3 or 4 girls, and it used to be 1/10 of 1% were transitioning, and now it's like 3%. It's an insane number.
Yes,
and explains it, and when you hear her explain it, you go, "This is absolute madness." Of course, I wanted to read her book. I went to Target, wasn't there. Target got one tweet from one crazy activist. Sound familiar? And they banned her book temporarily. But you got all these activists who are trying to get her shut down, censored. It's sick. But I don't know how we got off on that. That video, by the way.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
That video is going to go viral, and hopefully, people will see it and do something about it, because these poor children. I just feel bad for poor Phoenix. Gonna go. I mean,
there's still hope for Lotus, Jerry.
Lotus, I'm pretty sure is a boy, or maybe I don't know. But check out that video if you hadn't seen it. All right, before we go, I got to get to Colin Kaepernick because I realize that I'm a little bit more interested in this than some people, but Colin Kaepernick is a hero to most people on ESPN. I mean, let's be honest. All the Max Kellermans and the Levitards and all the around the horn people, they love Colin Kaepernick because he hates cops, he hates America, and they just think that's cool. And they think when I don't know, it was George Floyd or Jacob Blake happened, there was an uprising at Barstool, and some of the Barstool guys, the Portnoy's right-hand men, said, I feel so bad. Now I understand what Colin Kaepernick is doing. Now I understand, why Colin Kaepernick, hates cops. And he became this figure. When the Los Angeles Lakers all took a knee and wore T-shirts and did something, I don't know, spit on the flag. I forget what they did exactly. LeBron James said, I hope Colin Kaepernick is proud of us. Proud of us. It's just insane when you stop and think about what Colin Kaepernick is famous.
He's sacrificed, Jerry. He's sacrificed
so much. Colin Kaepernick is now demanding the release of another cop killer. He loves cop killers.
Mumia
Abu Jamal. Mumia Abu Jamal, if you read about it, is guilty as hell, assassinated a cop, kind of like his other hero, Joanne Chesimard did. Daniel Faulkner was a 25-year-old trooper in 1981, a Philadelphia police officer, not a state trooper, Philadelphia cop in 1981. He shot him. Faulkner shot back, which is how I think that it was pretty clear. Abu Jamal was injured, but Abu Jamal executed this cop when he was down and injured, murdered him in cold blood. Obviously, nobody at ESPN knows who Daniel Faulkner is. They don't care. They just think Kaepernick is, fighting for the oppressed and the voiceless and all that crap. But he made a video. There's a guy who gets paid millions by Nike. There's a guy who gets honored by the NFL, made a video saying that Abu Jamal was framed and he served enough and he should be free. Mumia was shot, brutalized, arrested, and chained to a hospital bed. He did confess to the killing, by the way, but he didn't, change his mind, I guess, later on. And now Kaepernick, this absolute piece of garbage, Colin Kaepernick, is demanding this guy be free. Faulkner's widow is still around, and she's fighting it. You know who the DA is? That Larry Krasner, that evil bastard who was one of the original George Soros DAs that he bought the office for him, and now he does nothing but free criminals and side with the criminals, and they're trying to get this guy freed.
Yeah,
Maureen Faulkner's fighting the good fight 38 years after her husband was assassinated, but and everyone who pays attention to the case knows he's guilty as hell. It doesn't matter. Kaepernick wants him free because of his race, and because all he did was kill a cop, and Kaepernick doesn't have any problem with that, as we've learned before with Joanne Chesimard and anybody who.
Yeah, and we've been talking about Mumia for 25 years. He has kind of been one of the high trophy icons for this crazy movement, woke movement here. He's a noted poet, though, Jerry. You left that out. He's a thoughtful poet. So he's got important masterworks to complete, and so they've been celebrating this guy. But the details of the murder of the cop are freaking terrible. I read them. It was a decade ago when I read them, but at one point he may have begged for his life.
Yeah.
The guy's an animal. Mumia is just a total trash. But I'm not surprised. Hey, if you're going to try it, this is the time to try it. And you think that the squad's not going to? You were saying that you don't think the squad's going to have any sway over Joe Biden. I disagree, Jerry. I mean, this is going to be a test. We'll see how much he can hold out. I don't think he's got much chance here. I think as far as criminal justice reform or woke revolution goes, Biden has no defense against that stuff, and it is going to be a free-for-all.
I'm looking forward to watching Around the Horn today. I'm sure they'll say we wish the best to Maureen Faulkner. Our thoughts and prayers are for her and her family because her husband was assassinated by this dirtbag. No, they'll say, "Oh, Colin Kaepernick, he's such a freedom fighter, such a great humanitarian." Screw that. It's all
Jerry.
a big lie.
Considering we've moved so
Terrible
much
human
in
being. He hates
all
God,
these
he hates
organizations,
America. He loves China. He's an awful human being. Why
No,
can't
but
he
Jerry,
just-
considering we've moved so far into the crazy zone here, and all these woke companies like ESPN are happy to make these moves, even though they lose money, and hire idiots, even though they lose money, and the culture has become so warped. How isn't OJ back in polite company? Seriously, why doesn't he have a normal gig? He's a talented broadcaster.
He does tweet out his thoughts, his daily thoughts.
Yeah.
It is amazing. He is holding up so well. He looks, I think he's 71 or 2. He looks good. He sounds good. It's just that there's no justice in the world that he's out there. And you know where he is every day when he tweets out his thoughts? He's at the golf course. He's waiting to tee off, and he does a little 2-minute video. He'll do one today talking about Joe Burrow getting hurt, or talking about something to do with the with Trump or whatever. But OJ looks so good. It's just a shame. It's a shame that he isn't. It's a shame that he's not like in the same condition as our president-elect. In the throes of dementia, struggling to find the right words, because he's not. This is a guy who played in the NFL, who went to prison, who committed murder, and he sounds sharp as it sounds like he hasn't lost a brain cell. It's kind of
People
sad.
love him. Have you ever met him?
I did years ago, I think he was with Will McDonough, and when I met him, and he was in this restaurant and saying hi to everybody.
Of course.
And everybody, and he was like toast of the town. He was very political and sociable,
Diplomatic. Everybody says he's a great guy. Unless he kills you, he's like a really great guy. It's interesting how charming some of these.
When he's not beheading his wife, he's charming. And you know what? We all have our flaws, right? We all have our issues. So occasionally, cut someone's head off. He still seems like a heck of a. I mean, he was great as Norberg, wouldn't you agree, in the movie?
He was incredible in Naked Gun. In Towering Inferno, Jerry, you can't.
Awesome.
They can't teach that. If Mumia goes free, I want OJ back on TV.
It's a good. You run with that. With that. But we'll see. Good luck to Mumia and Kaepernick, that piece of crap. But anyway, all right, that's it. We got off on that tangent. I'm looking forward today to seeing I haven't seen it yet, Sidney Powell go public with the Kraken. She's going to release the Kraken today, Shattuck. And God, are we going to miss Trump or what? Every day is some crazy thing with whether it's his lawyers or him or his someone on his team. It's just going to be boring without him. We're going to miss him.
He's not going anywhere, Jerry. He's going to get more coverage as a private citizen than Biden does as president.
Hopefully, takes over Newsmax, because that's, my network, Newsmax. And that'd be wild if he buys a network just for revenge. I love revenge. You know that?
Yeah.
I would love to see it. That's why I love Janice Dean, who's going to join us tomorrow, by the way. I'm
awesome.
I can't wait. I love Janice Dean. She's doing great work.
Will you explain to her that Governor Cuomo feels that it's her fault, by the way, that her relatives have died, just like eating too much cheesecake makes you fat?
That's a good point. I got to write that down. Cheesecake. Her father-in-law was a New York firefighter. Guy fought and was married to his wife for 59 years. And Cuomo killed both of them in the span of like 2 weeks. And he's out there getting an Emmy today. It's nauseating. Don't get me started on this again. Getting a friggin' Emmy. He's out in a book tour, writing a book about how and all these celebrities, these Ben Stiller a-holes are out there campaigning for him already. Do people not pay attention? I honestly, if he were Republican, I would hate him. I don't hate him because he's a Democrat. I mean, that's part of it, but I would hate him just as much if he were Republican, because I know what he did. We all know what he did. If you could just read up on it a little bit, you'll realize what a disgusting human being he is. But enough of that. Shattuck, thanks for joining us. And thank your wife for me, please, for saving little Jerry Callahan, the rooster. I like to think of him as a rooster. The rooster who was attacked by a hawk, and your wife went out there valiantly, heroically saved the rooster. I wish that were on video, man. We could make her famous.
I know. I know. I've thought about it, but the motion cameras will always go off. Unless I can do it right. I'll try. Believe me.
You have chickens. Why?
Oh, because when the virus was first starting, my wife felt that there'd be a run on all the food in the world, and so we had to be preppers. And so
No.
now we have chickens for eggs.
You're preppers? Do you have like a basement full of Dinty Moore cans of?
Not Dinty Moore, because I would eat it, and she knows that I
Spam?
get fat and occasionally drunk. So no. So it's beans. There's Spam down there. There's a lot of pasta down there. There's a lot of stuff that I generally won't eat.
Are your kids in on this prepper thing?
She's not a legitimate prepper. But we have a lot. We have shelves of stuff, and yeah. My wife is hardcore, Jerry. She doesn't screw around.
She's a prepper.
I was telling Jerry before you came on about the video on Facebook of her what appeared to be on the roof doing.
Yeah.
It's just so you have no right to accuse me of lack of masculinity while your wife is doing everything around the house, everything outside the house. All right, that's a new rule. That's a new rule.
Yeah, she does everything. She changed oil manually while she was 9 months pregnant. Under the car. Our neighbors saw this and were like, "You fat piece of crap to me. You're letting her." And I was like, "She just does it."
And what do your kids do? Little Lotus and Phoenix, Shattuck, do they take care of the chickens?
They help give them water, etc. They're not super helpful at the moment. One of them is learning how to clean stuff up, which is good because we've got the houses. We need to be better.
I know
we
your
need
kids
to build that better, Jerry.
Have they all picked out their pronouns? Your kids?
Oddly enough, my wife has little patience for anything like that, Jerry. She's at Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox. So there's not a whole lot of Phoenix and stuff like that happening.
No. All right. That is Tom Shattuck, host of the Burn Barrel podcast and Lowell's son editor and lazy slob of a husband who lets his poor wife do all the work around the house. Thanks, Shattuck. We'll talk to you hopefully again this week.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving at DCU. And thanks to everybody for listening and for subscribing. Tomorrow we're going to talk to, at some point, not sure when we're going to get this up and running, but we're going to talk to Janice Dean, who is determined to dog Andrew Cuomo to his grave, which I love that about her because of what Cuomo did to her family. And we'll have the latest from Sidney Powell and the Kraken and see what happens with them today. Anything else, Cullinane?
No, I mean, if you haven't already, check out that Chef Mike interview that Shattuck was teasing. I think it was Michelle McPhee over the weekend tweeted out how, basically comparing the bailout for the auto industry and we're doing nothing for the restaurants. The guys like Chef Mike aren't asking for a bailout. They're just asking. They're playing by the rules and they're just asking for a fair fight. And that's that interview was perfectly sums up the fight that small businesses, small restaurants are going through.
I saw some guys in LA, in California, and the restaurant owners, and they did all these measures. They set up their outside sections and put in tents and big plastic dividers. And then 3 days later, the governor says, "You're closed. You're closed." I mean, not French Laundry, because that's special. No. The average guy just trying to make a living, he just kicked him in the nuts again. It is brutal what they're doing. By the way, we've shown you a couple of videos, the video of Lotus in Phoenix and the video of the beautiful man in Florida saving his dog. You got to see the video of the Buffalo store owner who kicks the health department out of the store, says, "Get lost if you don't have a warrant." And she had cops with her. And they were going to inspect the place to see if they were abiding by all of Cuomo's ridiculous rules. He wouldn't let them in, said, "Get lost. This is a private business. You're not invited in. Till you get a warrant, get out of my store." It was great. I hope there's more of that. People are going to start fighting back. People are fed up. They're not going to allow the government to cancel Christmas. Have you brought your kids to see the mall Santa yet, Chaddock? Because I see mall Santas are in like terrariums. They have them in. They're like little gerbils inside these little plastic bubbles. It's kind of sick. But hey, can't be too careful. All right, that's it. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you